This meeting, all other meetings of this committee are open to the public. Proper notice been posted and given to the press in accordance with Wisconsin statutes, so the citizen may be aware of time, place, and the agenda. Call to order, roll call.
Spears?
Here.
Henderson?
Here.
Annabeth? Here. Finley? Here. Cook and Ebert are not present.
Okay, and entertain a motion to approve minutes of the last meeting, October 19th, 2015.
I think there's a typo there, it's December 16th of 15. So on the minutes are reflected
16th,
correctly,
okay.
but it's the last minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the December 16th, 2015 meeting.
Second.
Motion made, seconded, to approve the minutes of October, or December. What is it?
December 16th,
Okay.
2015.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now we'll talk about the request to combine two parcels for Martin Olenberg.
You have to sign for
What's
blessings
meant to
first.
sign there? I'm jumped one low already. Sign permit for Blessings and Friends. It's the new store down Main Street here.
Yep.
You got a permit application is in the folder.
They turned it in. They put the sign up after they turned in the permit application, but because of the planning commission not meeting, they got the sign up. There will be probably modification to the fee because the dollar amount is based off of their front sign.
Alright.
And if you look at page 2, they also have a sign on the back door. The other thing that they're looking at too, or not looking at, but we're talking to them about the sandwich board sign that they put out. They put that out on the sidewalk,
Mm-hmm.
and there's typically a fee for that.
Okay.
You're probably aware of that. I think you
Yeah,
guys
you
have one,
got the
right?
sandwich boards.
Mhm.
We're working on that too, but for right now, what they're looking at is they turned it in for the signage that's on the building.
Okay. Anybody got any questions on it?
The sign that's in the back, that's not on their outer door, that's on another.
It's
on
a door.
a door that's just standing back there, correct? Okay. Well, I just wanted to make sure that I was remembering right. It's not actually on the door of the building. It's on a,
It's on the door that goes to Steve's
yeah.
hiding place where he puts all his excess storage back in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are we dealing only with the front sign tonight then? Is that it?
Yeah.
Well, they've got enough for both.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
The fee is only calculated that they put on their front sign. The back door they had set sort of as like an addendum. They sent that along too. It's physically a door. What they call it, and it's noted here, but what they call it is an ad door.
All right.
You'll follow up on the fee then?
Right. Yeah. So what it is the fee, as you'll see on the bottom of the permit, it's $25 is the base fee, plus $1 for every square foot over 20 square feet. So the first sign is 3 by 10, that's 30 square feet. So it's 25 plus $1 for the 10 that are over 20. And then the second, this addendum is for a 15 square foot, I guess you call it a sign piece, it's a sign door. So it would be $1 per square foot on that too. So the fee is actually gonna be $50.
Okay. Yep.
Okay?
Anybody got any questions on that? Self-explanatory, I believe. You want to make a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve.
Motion made
Second.
and seconded to approve the sign permit for Mary Beisner. Blessings and Friends. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now we'll move on to Marvin Barb Nolenberg's request to combine two parcels. Like Nick and I were just talking, I don't understand how he got a building permit in the first place on
From the way it looks.
a half lot here and a half lot there.
So the only comment I can make is
The only comment he can make.
on this, as you look at, and it's on the screens, but as you look at the the map, the experience we've had with those county lines,
Yep.
where that typically is supposed to be 5 to 8 feet off, but when it came to that pond property that we purchased by the treatment plant,
Yep.
it was off by 150 feet.
Right.
So this isn't a survey itself, but it looks like, you know, when you look at the western property line, it looks like that's a good setback off the house
Right.
on the west side, and then when you look at the second parcel, it's just right through the garage almost, so. But basically what they're looking at doing is just combining, because what they do is we have like the hydrant fee, you
Okay.
pay it per parcel, so they're paying it double.
Yep.
And if that's really the case, if the property line goes through the middle of the garage, well, that would be incumbent on them to have, or be a beneficial thing to have one lot.
Anybody got-
Questions? Yeah.
Anybody got a question on it?
No?
I'm gonna make a motion to approve the combination of parcels for Mark Nolenberg.
I second
Motion made, second, to approve the request for combining two lots for Mark Nolenberg. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now we're up to an administrator.
Just a note for the planning commission, there's a couple zoning issues we've run into. One is on the drive-in restaurant. And so the drive-in itself is zoned, so if you have a zoning map, you could have 3 of them on at a time, so.
Oh,
Right where the mouth, the picture, the face with the mouth, that's where you can turn it on and off. And once the third one is on, then it queues up the next one then. So, still working the tweaks out on that, so there you go. There you go.
still going to figure it out.
Yeah. So,
That's really what you're talking about. This little red spot right there.
yep, so on the zoning map,
That's where the drive-in is.
Okay.
On that little point.
the
Right.
drive-in, as you look at that map, it's red in a residential neighborhood. And so essentially, it's zoned, it's kind of spot zoned, because that's the only parcel that's zoned business. And either in 2005, when the current zoning code was approved, or in 2010, when the zoning map was updated, it was zoned B1. Now, you guys, is your monitor on there?
No.
You can push it on, maybe if you guys want to move around it, you can tilt it too, because the computer I've got will share to that monitor there. So, the drive-in is zoned B1, general business. Now, it's been up for sale the last few winters,
Mm-hmm.
but it's being listed with Faye Wilson, and Faye is usually pretty thorough with her listings. She had called us and just verified what the zoning was, and the zoning is B1 general business. Well, on your screen, you will see in the B1 general business district, the permitted uses, number 10 says restaurants, lunchrooms, and other eating places except drive-in establishments. So the way that this is zoned, technically it's B1, but it's technically not an allowable use there. Where it would be allowed would be under B2, which is highway business. Highway business is typically geared more towards highway frontage. Now, West Main is State Highway 110, so that's, when you say highway frontage, it doesn't mean it's on Highway 10, it could be the state road. And it's usually geared more towards automobile type or vehicular type businesses, which is what a drive-in would be. Now, the key under B2 highway business is that anything that is placed in that zoning district automatically has to get a conditional use permit. And what that means is they have to come to you. We did that with Weyauwega Motors, Mitchell
Right.
Automotive. You have the ability to put reasonable restrictions on the development of the property. In the case of a drive-in restaurant, you would want to make sure that they have adequate parking, that it's laid out correctly, and that it's not going to be a safety hazard to customers or pedestrians or motorists. So in this case, it's kind of an interesting conundrum. It's technically not allowed, the drive-in in the B1 zoning, but I don't know that anybody really has an issue with the way they operate, and it's been operating that way for quite some time, so that's not the issue. The issue is if somebody new would buy it, how do we need to regulate it? And what we probably need to do is look at rezoning that piece to B2 highway business, and if you rezone that, the next thing you would have to do is probably take out a conditional use or have a conditional use applied there. So the problem is, I don't have the history of the zoning for that property, but it's likely that when this was zoned, the city just made an error and classified it in correctly. And so the zoning should be changed. Typically there's a fee to get that changed if somebody requests it. In this case, we probably want to approach it where we would want to incur any costs, but you'd have to have the owner's consent. And I've talked with the Alexes about this, and I mean, they're just hoping that whoever might end up buying it is able to run it legally and legitimately. So that would be the goal, is to get it to that point. So we're probably looking at a rezone. We just found out about this last week. Typically when you change zoning, there's a public notice period, so we didn't have enough time coming into tonight. But then the other issue is going to be, once we rezone it, the issue of the conditional use is that typically an applicant has to pay $225 because we have to then notice that too. Now, I don't know if it's appropriate that you rezone this and then ask the current owners to pay the fee to get the conditional use, but that's sort of where we're putting this out to you guys, just to make you aware that it's probably zoned incorrectly. It's probably a zoning issue on the city's end, but then it's just how do you get it up to snuff, to conform with zoning. And, if somebody new is gonna buy it, well, that brings an opportunity to just have a clean slate with a conditional use permit. But if the current owner is gonna continue to run it, how do you wanna treat that? Again, knowing that the way they run it isn't an issue. We don't have a problem with that. It's just more, how do you get them legal and conforming? So it's not really asking for any feedback so much as it's just putting this out there.
Okay, question.
Yeah.
The conditional use permit, that's a one-time fee, or is that an every year fee?
No, it's a one-time fee, and
It's
basically what it is
one-time fee.
it's the cost of taking out an ad in the paper. I mean, the city doesn't make money on that. It's just to cover our costs of publishing it.
Okay, well, what if instead of hitting them on the whole cost of it, what if you can kind of, in a way, figure out how to kind of put on a tax or a percentage over X amount of time to pay that fee, so that you ain't hitting them with that whole fee.
Yeah.
I
think.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand.
Kind of break it up so that maybe they don't feel you're kind of pushing them right away.
Yeah.
I would think you're gonna get quite an argument, even if you bring up the fact of a fee, because
That's
they'll say, hey, we've been running this for 50 years right now, how come you wanna charge me $250 to keep running? That's just not right.
I don't know how much we want to get into this tonight, because it's not really
No, it's just to throw it out there.
informational, but
So if
there's,
the owner of the property would like to have it rezoned, I think we would probably initiate that process to get it rezoned, and it would probably be at the city's cost. I think that would be reasonable anyway, because I think it's obviously a city error.
well, I don't think that part's any issue at all. We're gonna have to rezone it before they sell it.
Right.
Now that we're aware that it's zoned improperly,
Yep.
we have to change the zoning, and because it's a city error, the part of the zoning is
Right.
gonna be our cost, because we can't ask them to pay for our mistake.
right.
That wouldn't be right. Now, the part of the conditional use permit, that's a
Second
second argument.
Right.
That's a,
Second argument.
that'd be something we'd have to discuss with them and everything else, but the zoning, that we should be getting going on that right away.
Yep.
Definitely before it sells, we wanna make sure that it's zoned properly, because I'm sure they don't want, and knowing Faye, she's not gonna wanna list something that's not zoned right, because that just wouldn't be right,
Mhm.
so.
So that's we'll probably move forward on that, but again, it's
Yeah.
gotta be the property owner's consent on that.
Right.
And I think they're open to it. Now, on your question about that fee for the conditional use, the conditional use permits only apply to whoever's currently owning or running the business. So if they sell it, it doesn't, you can't sell a
It
conditional
don't
use
go
permit.
with, but
Right.
Somebody new would have to
we
come and
have
apply
to
for
come
one.
up with
Yeah.
Yep,
the whole
Right.
cost.
Right.
right. So that's one issue. The other issue that's out there is in residential zoning, but I think it's the same type of issue where there's a neighborhood that's probably zoned incorrectly, and it's the neighborhood around West Alfred and Mary Street. And as you look on your map, residential properties are zoned, they're in yellow, or they're in like a peach color.
Yep.
And it's the orange that is R3, which is apartment zoning for big apartments. Now, there's a whole neighborhood that butts up on the B1 that's R3 because it's orange. Do you see that, where we've got that?
Yep.
Right on the northeast corner of Alfred and Mary, you can't see it quite on that map, but there's a very tiny parcel that's right on the corner. And the owner of the parcel would like to build a garage at some point. Now, that lot, from what we understand, is a 70-foot lot. And back on your screen, you will see under the R3 multiple family residential,
There is a line through there if you look at it.
Yep.
the setback for R3 is, again, this is a 70-foot lot. The front setback is a minimum of 35 feet. The back setback is a minimum of 50 feet. So a 70-foot lot,
There you go.
technically, by the zoning, you can't build on it at all. So, but it's, in this case, the orange or the R3, if you look to the northwest of the lake, you'll see that the zoning for the apartments on Mill Pond Circle, that's all R3 because it's bigger, wider, open developments.
You guys see the lot he's talking about? Yeah, there is a line, if you look close, there is a line through that lot's got half. And that's that little house on the corner over there, right out.
But basically, that whole neighborhood, everything that's orange in there is basically situated similarly where they're, according to the zoning, they probably can't build anything on a lot of those lots. And it's mainly, like I said, because the R3 is supposed to be bigger developments. They don't want apartment buildings right on the road. They want them kind of set back a little bit. So what we're probably gonna have to look at doing there too is something of a rezone for all of that neighborhood, because it doesn't make sense that it would be orange.
There's some two-family homes in there, isn't there, if I'm remembering right?
There are, yep.
So, I mean, that would have been R2, but,
R2 would be appropriate, and R2 is appropriate even for single-family homes, because R2 is single and two-family.
right. So I'm just curious how that ended up being an R3. What would-
So, yeah, and that's the big thing. Usually what happens is people will ask, can I build a garage? I'm looking to sell my property, and that's what these two cases were. And so when we look at the zoning, then we see in these two, a lot of times people will have property zoned that just doesn't fit what they want to do, but it's probably zoned properly. In these two cases, it just doesn't make sense that for drive-in, we would zone it and then
Right.
outlaw that use, and then for these smaller properties, that we would zone them the same as we would large apartment buildings. So there is nothing to take action, because to rezone, you do have to put out public notice, but I did want to get it at least to your attention, because this is the board, or this is the commission where the zoning requests come through. Just so you're aware that there are things out there that we believe we would have to, these two, probably the city would maybe have to initiate a zoning. When you're dealing with the drive-in, it's just one owner. When you're dealing with the other neighborhood, a lot of them may not even know, because if you don't have to build something,
Right.
you might not know that you're zoned a certain way.
Are there any other places in town, when you look at this map, that were zoned wrong?
The
Inappropriately?
very, very interesting issue that we're running into is all the red where there are homes. And we ran into this with the Knitting Nest when the Martins bought that property.
Yeah.
That there was some issue that because that's zoned B1 business, but there's homes there, there was a question about whether or not mortgage rates are
Yeah.
increased. You remember that discussion? That was a few years ago, but
Yeah.
the talk was that you can't get a mortgage on a business zoned house. It has to be a business loan. I think there's ways around that, but that was what BMO Harris was saying that, because I think that's who's looking to finance.
Yeah.
And we got quite a few houses that are falling in there.
Right. Right. So one of the things that we could look at that we don't really have is more of like a mixed use. So downtown it's B1 basically, and there's a lot of downtown that has upper residential units. So I mean, by their nature, they're already mixed business and residential. Probably makes sense that we look at a mix because we either hit residential or business or industrial.
Right,
So that's the only other thing I think I'm aware of.
okay.
Now, why certain houses, as you look at the yellow and the beige, why some? Because there's some spots in there where there's a two-family zoning, but it's a single-family house. I'm not sure how that all came about, but
Yeah, back to the corner of Alfred and Mary, just so I'm clear, did you say that someone wants to build a multifamily there or
no, they want to build a garage,
a garage?
and the garage has to follow the setbacks, but that property is 70 feet, and the required setback covers 85 feet. So technically, there is no land that they'd be able to build a garage.
Okay.
I mean, unless they wanted to go get a variance or something like that, they could, but if it's zoned incorrectly, the same discussion about a conditional use permit for somebody who's been zoned incorrectly, the variance costs $225 too, so do you charge them to vary when the zoning is probably incorrect anyway? I don't know that makes sense.
That's what they tell you.
Right,
That makes sense, that you did it wrong, why must I
Right.
pay for it?
Right,
For sure.
there's
and we haven't pushed the
a
issue
certain
on
logic in that too. If you know, if they bought a house, it's through no fault of theirs that somebody, you know, made a mistake.
and I think that's what it is, because it doesn't make sense that these would be apartment zoned on regular homes.
Right. Yeah, 'cause that
So
would be a
again,
problem
just to
there.
get that out there, those are two that we
One,
will
one.
probably be looking at with zoning. So it won't be 10 months between the next meeting, it'll be a little bit sooner than that, so.
All right.
And that's all I've got, it's just to bring it to your attention.
Okay. Such other matters as authorized by law, anybody else got anything?
No?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Did you make a motion?
Yeah. Then you can.
I said it.
He can
Yeah,
make
he
it.
did, he can.
I'll-
All right, I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Any argument? All in favor, say aye.
All right.
I
7:28.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Thanks.